ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Chelsea Wells.
And this is Beautiful Bodies of Birmingham. Okay, so you can start out by, I guess, telling us the first time you noticed your body image, like the first time you felt pressure to look or be a certain way.
So I didn't write about this specifically because I wanted to talk about it. The first time that I specifically remember being aware of my body, there are two actual instances that I remember being like, oh, I'm a person. Like, I have this physical appearance that other people notice. The first time was when a friend of mine, that was another female, asked me when or if I had started wearing a bra. I remember that being a very big
How old were you?
I think it was like maybe 12 or 13, something like that. So a period where maybe I should start wearing a bra. But I remember being like, oh man, I should start wearing one. Somebody noticed that I'm not wearing one, so I should really start wearing one right now. And I remember that being really scary and trying to figure out what I needed, where I could get it, who I needed to talk to about that. Obviously my mom was the first person that I talked to other than my friends, because I was like, oh no, my friends are gonna embarrass me. I remember that, so that was the first thing that happened. Another really funny incident is when my mom noticed that I had an armpit hair. That one was really funny because we were sitting outside on our back porch, and I remember this like it was yesterday, because I had on one of my favorite Peace Frog shirts. It was sleeveless, and I had my arm propped up on the swing out back, and my mom was sitting on the other side of the swing, and she looked up and she goes, Chelsea, oh my gosh, have you started shaving your armpits? And I was like, what? What are you talking about? Have I started? What? No. Who did what? And she pulled at the one single armpit hair that I had under my arm, and I remember being, again, just so embarrassed, like, oh my god, she noticed this thing that I hadn't even noticed. How did she notice and I didn't notice? So of course from then on I started shaving my armpits, and it was itchy and it didn't feel good, and then there were bumps, and then I had to wear deodorant, and sometimes the deodorant wasn't right, and if I didn't have any and I wore my brother's, it stung because boys deodorant has like alcohol in it or something. And so now I don't shave my armpits. So
I think that's
problem
awesome.
Solved.
I think that's really awesome. And also going back to when you felt like you had to wear a bra, I feel like because of internalized misogyny and patriarchal, influences in our culture, that we feel like at such a young age we're supposed to wear bras and do all this stuff as women, and that's a lot of pressure, and it's also not fair.
It is.
So
that is something that I have had multiple discussions with multiple people about, because I actually had a boyfriend, a really serious boyfriend, that had a conversation with me once because I didn't want to wear a bra out to dinner. I didn't want to wear a bra that night for whatever reason. And he looked at me and he told me, what will people think if you show up to this dinner and you don't have a bra on? People are going to stare at your boobs. People are going to see your nipples. And
God
I remember
forbid.
being like, everybody has nipples. Like, what? People see yours all the time. You don't wear like 3 shirts because you get cold sometimes. Like, what? That's so, there's such a double standard. And here recently I haven't been wearing one very often, and a lot of times it's because I'm just lazy and I want to be comfortable. Honestly, I just want to be comfortable. Dudes get to be comfortable all the time.
Yeah.
They have pockets in all of their clothes, and their clothes fit them pretty well, except sometimes when their shirts get larger, they just get wider, which I think is really weird. They don't get longer, which I've noticed because my boyfriend wears extra large shirts, but again, they get wider, and he's so skinny and tall, it just sucks for him.
yeah.
But again, it's the way our society is, and the double standard that we have for men and women, and it's really sad, but a lot of people feel that they have to fill this certain mold or be this certain person when it comes to clothes or when it comes to how their body is supposed to be shaped. And it makes me really sad, but when I see projects like this or people who have decided to stand up and go, you know what, that's not me, and it doesn't matter if that's me or not, it makes me feel really good. It gives me that glimmer of hope for the future of women and men and anybody in between.
So how do you think like those pressures affected you growing up, just like mentally, emotionally, physically?
Well, definitely when I was younger, it was tough to be the tomboy. I was definitely a tomboy growing up. I had like a million camo jackets that I wore all the time. And I loved hanging out in the woods, and I always wanted to be outside, climbing trees, doing something weird. We have this really infamous photo of me and like this bandana wrapped around my head shooting a BB gun with like my mom's old workout gloves or something
That's
on.
awesome.
It was really terrible.
Sounds
but
awesome.
I've always got, like, if you look through all of my old photos, I've always got camo on of some kind, and I've just always been the boyish girl, and I think that has definitely made me feel more okay growing up and being a little different than the stereotypical girly girl or someone who's supposed to fit that mold of being the girl who likes shopping or pink or whatever is supposed to be the mold of a girl in our society today. As I've gotten older, I think that has definitely changed a little bit because I've been in relationships where it's definitely made a difference with the significant other that I've been with. I've had a tough time either explaining it to the significant other, or maybe their definition of feminism has been really different, or maybe they just don't get it at all, or maybe they've never even heard of it before. So someone I've dated before like understood that I don't shave my legs, but they don't like to touch it. Or maybe they understand that I can hold the door on my own, but they disagree with it. Or something like weird stuff like that I've had to kind of not only understand but be able to deal with. So trying to like not fight with someone or yell or argue with someone about it, but be able to level with them and kind of explain it a little better has been something that I've dealt with since I've gotten older, definitely. So
other than just like the typical like norms like for women, like the societal standards like shaving or wearing a bra, was there any other pressures that you felt, like maybe just being little, like in elementary school or middle school or high school, or even just like being a young woman and growing into your body? Like, did you feel like you needed to be like thinner or look this certain way, or just...
Absolutely. I've always had a group of friends who were into being social and partying, so I felt pressure to do drugs or drink when I was younger. I've always felt pressure to be a little more fashionable because I do have a lot of friends who are really into clothes and looking really nice all of the time, or makeup or hair, and I don't wear a lot of makeup and I don't dress up very often, although I do like to dress up, and wearing really nice clothes is always fun, and it always gives me a little confidence boost when I look good.
Yes.
But all of my friends, if they are my real friends, understand that that's not something that I do all the time.
That's not you.
And yeah, it's so, now that I'm older and now that I have a more refined group of friends, I guess, they get it, and they're so much more understanding than when I was younger, and I just kind of had to put on that shirt that I really hated wearing because everybody else liked it. And you try to fit in when you're younger because you don't know what's better or what's worse, fitting in or trying to be yourself and getting made fun of.
Yeah.
That's
a really like interesting side of it, because I'm on the opposite end of, I'm really fashionable, and like I enjoy dressing up and doing that. But on the flip side of that, I love wearing men's clothing and making them feminine, and like not wearing a bra with a lot of stuff. And as I've gotten older, I've been more comfortable expressing my style in a more masculine way and in a different way, and not having to always be super feminine and super fashionable, because I am that. But I can always switch it up and be, I think I'm getting more in touch with my inner tomboy.
Yeah.
Which is really exciting.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I mean, I am the first one to walk into the men's section of any store and be like, oh, this shirt rules. Actually, I think the shirt I have on right now is a dude shirt from Gap. I love plain stuff. I've always gone towards anything that doesn't have a logo on it. I'm not trying to be a billboard. I'm trying to wear clothes that are comfortable and somewhat fashionable. I can be fashion-y sometimes.
Yeah, in your Chelsea way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I've always been kind of weird. You can ask
Which
my dad.
is awesome.
He's told me since I was tiny that I'm just so weird. And I'm finally okay with that. It's taken me a long time to really grasp what he means by that. And I don't think he's always meant it in the way that I understand it now, but I'm weird and I love it.
I love it too.
So yeah, it's fun to be a little different. Every now and then it's fun to fit in too, but when you have a group of friends that's always supportive and always fun and weird too, then you all can be weird together.
Yes. So, what do you think Beautiful Bodies has done for you?
For me, it's made it easier to kind of, I want to say, express myself. I've never written anything that anyone else has ever read. I say I've always journaled, but I've journaled on and off for a few years. So I've been comfortable with stream of consciousness writing and everything, and somehow I got through 4 years of a degree at UAB without having to take any creative writing courses. Don't tell anybody there. So I've always been really nervous about letting anyone read any of my writing, and now I finally got to write something for a good cause and to bring something that I find really important, not only for our generation, but for everyone around us, our parents, our grandparents, and maybe our kids later, because being positive for each other is such a big deal. I don't know, it affects everyone. If you walk into a room and you're positive, it can make everyone else positive. But so the first thing that was challenging was writing. The second thing that was challenging, obviously, was posing for the photographs that we did. And that was the first time that I've done that, and that was a lot of fun. But it was also challenging. I was vulnerable when I've never been vulnerable like that before. And so I think that if I can do it, then other people can do it, and this project can just get bigger and bigger and grow and grow and grow, and everyone can be cheering everyone on, and we can continue to become supportive of each other rather than competitive like our society wants us to be. So I think it's a really great project, and everyone who can get involved should get involved, basically. And now I'm a big commercial for your project.
Brought to you by Chelsea. So, what do you think friends, family, whoever, your peers, what do you think they can take from seeing you do this and reading your story?
That's a good question. So what I wrote about mostly was being positive. This past year or two, I've had a really tough time being that positive person. I think the number one thing that you can give to yourself is a positive attitude. It may be really hard, and it may be just the biggest thing that you have to deal with on a daily basis, but in the end it's going to be the best thing for you. So I think that's the biggest takeaway, is to remain positive, because again, like I said, if you can stay positive, then that catches on to other people, definitely. I got through some really tough stuff. By staying positive and looking towards the good stuff that could happen rather than the bad stuff. So,
would you feel comfortable talking about some of the tough things?
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest one that I am referring to is a really abusive relationship that I was in. It got physical a couple of times, but it was mainly emotionally and psychologically abusive. I moved away from Alabama for about a year and a half. I lived in Richmond, Virginia, and I lived in Ypsilanti, Michigan, which is right outside of Ann Arbor. Both places are beautiful and amazing, and I love them so much. But alas, I went with the wrong person. The person I went with, I thought was my person. I thought that he was the person I was supposed to be with for the rest of my life. And he ended up being one of the most manipulative persons. One of the most manipulative people I've ever met. He is probably one of the top reasons why I am in therapy and going to a psychiatrist and on medications right now, because I now second guess everything that I do. He questioned every decision that I made. He went through my phone all the time. He wanted to know who I was talking to. He wanted to know why I was wearing the clothes that I was wearing, where I was all the time. He called the cops on me. He physically kept me from leaving our apartment multiple times. I mean, it was tough. It was real tough stuff.
Yeah.
And I would not be the person that I am without that experience, 100%. Yeah. I wouldn't wish that experience on anyone else ever. But I learned more about myself than I ever thought that I would. And the people that I love and surround me. Because every time I picked up that phone to call somebody, anybody was there. Everybody was there that needed to be there. And that really is what kept me going through that. I called crying multiple times in the middle of the night. You know, I wanted to go home. I wanted to be with my family. And I will never forget being in Michigan and having my grandmother call me. And her saying she knew that something was wrong. Not that anybody called her, not that anybody said anything, or that I called anybody or said, you know, she just had a feeling. She had a gut feeling that something was wrong, and she called me. And she just knew that she needed to talk to me. And I broke down crying on the phone with her, and I remember just knowing that I shouldn't be there, knowing that I had something better to do, knowing that there was something better for me. So eventually I just packed my bags up and I came home, and I've been so happy.
That's amazing. I'm glad you got out of that.
Me too. And going through that makes me want to go save everyone always, forever and ever.
Yeah.
It's really tough, especially when you see someone that's going through the same things that you went through, especially when you see those warning signs in someone else's relationship. It's really, really tough not to just grab somebody and be like, listen, you need to get in my car, we're leaving.
Yeah.
But again, like I said earlier, it's all about how you communicate with people. You can't yell, you can't make people listen, you can't make them do anything. All you can do is try to explain and try to get on their level and try to hopefully convince them that they're worth more, that there's more positive stuff out there for them.
Yeah.
So.
How long were y'all together?
I think we started dating about 3 or 4 months before I moved away with him, which was real smart on my part.
It happens.
I know. I was head over heels. I thought he was my person.
It's okay.
We graduated UAB together, and we went on a trip with one of my friends to Portugal and Spain, And we found out while we were over there that he got a thing in Richmond at a school he wanted to go to. So I was like, hell, I'm graduating UAB, let's go. I was feeling reckless.
So how long were y'all together before you left?
Like 3 or 4 months.
So within that short period of time, you encountered that much abuse that has affected you for years.
Oh, well, we were together 3 or 4 months before I left Alabama.
Okay, so how long were y'all together in total before you left?
Before I left him, it was like probably a year and a half. So I was in Richmond for a year. We were together about 4 months, and then I was in Michigan for about 3 months. So yeah, about a year and 7 or 8 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a long time to deal with that kind of abuse.
And it's a long time for people to stand by you through that.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine having somebody call me on a weekly or, multiple times a week basis, crying, saying, oh, well, this happened. Oh, well, he found my journal and he read my journal. Oh, well, he found me doing this and he really didn't like this. Oh, well, he read this text message and he really didn't like this. Or, oh, well, this happened and I didn't wash the dishes, so he did this. Or I didn't do that. Like, frequently having conversations with your best friend about how, oh, well, I should have known better. I know he doesn't like it when I do that, so I know. But, like, that's crazy. Yeah. That's abuse.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to even say the word abuse out loud.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, even when I talk about it right now, I really almost didn't want to talk about it during this whole thing, because it makes it real if you talk about it out loud.
Yeah.
It makes it a thing that actually happened. Mm-hmm. So again, like I said, I want to look forward. I want to look to the positive stuff. And although I learned a lot about myself, I would rather look forward than backward.
Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
That's going to help.
If I can help one person get out of a shitty situation, then that is what I want to do. Absolutely.
It will, because a lot of people experience that. Not just women, a lot of people in general.
Absolutely.
But sadly, more often than not, it is women. Mm-hmm. And talking about it, it's bringing awareness to the fact that abuse can happen in so many different ways. And sometimes you don't even realize you're being abused until you're really deep into it.
Yep.
So I'm proud of you for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
That means a lot.
Absolutely.
I know that's hard. I think that this project really can touch on a lot of different factors that can go into how we view ourselves.
Absolutely. Before I dated that person, I was untouchable. I graduated college and I worked at an insurance company, so that was a big girl job, and I had my shit together. I knew that I was going to be awesome no matter what I was going to do, and I knew that I looked great and that I was going to do awesome things, and I was moving away, so that means I got out of Alabama. Mm-hmm. And I was just so confident.
It's been a year and a half since you've come back.
It's been, I think it's been a year and a few months, because I came back in October, not of this last year, but the year before. But it stripped a lot of that confidence away. It stripped a lot of things away. I have really bad anxiety now, like crippling anxiety. And I think it started when I was pulled away from all of my loved ones. Because I was constantly worrying about what happens to them when I'm away. What happens if something really bad happens and I have to go home? Like, what happens if something bad happens to me and I'm really far away? Now I have to let this person, who I don't 100% trust, take care of me. Like, what happens then? So now I'm struggling with anxiety and depression, and I'm on a few medications, and I'm going to talk therapy, which is my favorite part of all of that. I've been a few times, and my therapist is an angel sent from the heavens, and she is going to help save me. And we're just going to work through it. It's going to be really great, and it'll take some time, just like everything does, but eventually I'll be back to me. And it's all because of my family members and my loved ones, my friends, and my amazing boyfriend, who has been so supportive, even though I have a breakdown every 10 minutes, I swear. Even if it's anxiety because I dropped my keys in my car before I got out of the car, even if it's because I left my jacket at home, even if it's because we're 5 minutes later than I wanted to be, and I have a breakdown in the parking lot of the restaurant we wanted to go eat at. I mean, it is like, it's insane. I mean, and everyone around me has just been so supportive. And this whole project has let me talk about it more, which has made me feel better.
I'm so proud of you.
And I don't know if a lot of people know that I've been struggling with a lot of this, because I don't talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
Because I don't talk about me a lot. I'm a yes person. I talk about other people. I'm a listener. 99% of the time I'm listening. I'm such a good listener, y'all. So yeah, it feels good to let people know that even though stuff goes wrong, it can get better. And it is.